Hi, today I am going to show you how I unpick a seam. And this is a hem. So for instance, if you wanted to shorten a dress or a pair of trousers and you needed to unpick this seam, or you were going to take in a project, but you need to undo the hem to be able to do that because that makes it look more professional. So I'm going to just show you how I unpick a seam down there. Now this little tool, I love this little tool. I actually don't use it for what it's the sound of it. It's called an unpicker. I prefer this style unpicker. It's got a sharp little tool there. Sometimes you can get more flat-headed ones. I just think these are just a bit more kind of do the job. But I don't actually use it. I actually use these more than I do this. So this just kind of helps me actually unpick the seam. So what I do is I kind of flick, I'm going to go into, I'm just going to go up to the camera a little bit. So I'm going to go into the seam and I will unpick. I'll just go through. And then what I'll do is I'll use the tool, but I'll flick out. I'm going to cut it again and I'm going to flick out the little pieces of thread. Now once I've got a nice little tail, what I call a tail going on, then I use my fingers, and this finger here goes behind or in front of, or no, I'd say behind, and then I pull it like this. Now what I do then is I go to the back of my seam and I do the same thing. Now I don't actually use this again in a way of cutting. I'm just using it to flick out a little tail, and I'm using my fingers to do the rest of the job. And you're actually pulling out about, I'd say at least 6 or 7 stitches at a time. So I never use, well, very rarely I use the unpicker because of unpicking, going with the unpicker and going like this down the seam, the likelihood of you actually cutting the fabric might be a little high. So I tend to use my fingers. And also what you're doing, you're making the seam nice and clean. And so you haven't got lots of threads hanging around, because I hate, in all the years I've been doing clothing alterations, and I hate having little threads here and there. My students often know that I like cutting threads off as I go. I like a nice tidy project as I'm doing it. Now that's how you unpick a seam. Now I do run overlocker classes, and sometimes when an overlocker goes wrong, you need to undo an overlock. So I'm just going to, that's a little sample piece of my overlocker. That's a 4-thread overlocker there. So to unpick an overlocker stitch, now when I used to do a lot of clothing alterations for a bridal shop and over the years, and sometimes the thread colour would not be the right colour when we were shortening an outfit, and I couldn't find the correct Gutermann thread, the colour. So what I do is unpick the overlock stitch inside the garment, and then I'd reuse the thread. I'd wind it on a cotton reel and reuse it, so it never looked like it had been altered. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go down the project now, or the seam should I say. Now I'm going to come and I'm going to snip through what you call the 2 needle threads. Okay, it's the 2 darker colours you can see on here, and I'm just going to nick through there like that. And then I'm going to come back to the right here. It's just the way that I do it. So then, and then I'm going to flick out, again, I'm flicking out a little tail. So once you've got those tails, you can then hold on to that and just pull it with your fingers. Pull it with your fingers, and then that's the long thread. I mean, that's your upper and lower loopers. So you have a lot more thread and that's what I used to use on the clothing alterations. I'm just going to do it again for you. I'll go down about a couple of inches. I'll nick the 2 needle threads there, and then I will come back to the right and I'm flicking a little tail. So I run, if you have an overlocker and you'd like to learn a bit more about it, I run overlocker classes in different areas, and you can look on my website, which is www.cottonontosewing.com, and I run them in different areas if that interests you. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you. Bye.